Hello everyone and welcome back to Wing Chun Wednesday, episode 71. This week, me and Spencer are going to be talking to you about how to choose a martial arts teacher. So stay tuned. Hello everybody, we're back with Spencer this week. Hello my friend. And we're going to talk a little bit about how important it is to find a teacher and really how to go about choosing. I think Spencer will agree, not only the quality of the teacher, but the intention of the teacher can be a little bit different depending on who you go for. Spencer is a teacher too, so if you want to talk about that a little bit.
There's this Confucian saying that's very, very famous. It goes, 三人行，必有我师也. So like 3 men on the road and 1 is my teacher. And the meaning behind that is that everyone knows something that you don't know, and therefore you can learn from everyone. So in order to learn things, you must accept that you are a student constantly in all walks of life. Even if you're the expert on something, you can always learn more from everyone. I'm learning from my students every single day, and like I'm in awe of them, even though I'm actually teaching them stuff that they don't know. But having said that, it is imperative, it's so crucial that you are very, very cautious when choosing a teacher of martial arts, because it's something that it's so marketed in the world as something that is very formulaic, and that it has like, this is how you do it, this is how you don't do it, or this is wrong, this is right. And with such an abstract, cerebral thing, I feel like you can very easily be led astray by someone who either doesn't know what they're talking about or is misguided themselves, and therefore will misguide you. So it's very, very important to do your research on someone and just know that they are someone of integrity that will lead you to believe that they are in fact a real teacher. Don't just step into a martial arts class because you don't know martial arts, as that blanket statement would imply that you do.
Right. And on that, just because they know more than you doesn't mean they're a good teacher. It just means they have some knowledge. And just because they're incredible at something, it doesn't mean they're a good teacher at all. I've discovered a lot of those in my life. He's looking at you, high school math teacher. Anyways, Spencer has a great point here. And I think it's also important when he says research, it might not just be go online, check the website for the school, take a little bit of time, watch some videos on YouTube. It may be go to a couple classes and see that person teaching, feel his intention when he's teaching you. Don't just jump into anything and say, I'm going to be a disciple, I'm going to do this, I'm going to commit my life to this person, when they really haven't proven to you that they care for you, or your learning, or your development. And that's not even in the martial arts. Like, do they care about you as a person, as a friend? I think, and you'll agree, there's a deep connection with a teacher and a student, and it's not just like you described. You're teaching the teacher, you're inspiring the teacher to teach. It's not just this, and this is why I think a lot of teachers have failed me in high school and college. It's not just read pages 200 to 215 tonight. Oh, and bullet points on the PowerPoint. That's not teaching. It's really getting them to awaken that interest, I think, and awaken that sort of customizable feeling within themselves to want to do something. It's not just, and you'll know this being a teacher in high school, everyone learns differently. Do you want to talk about that a bit? I mean, you have so many different students of different ages, so this is great.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you, Phil, that you need to see that the teacher is compassionate and patient with the students, and actually is a teacher and not just someone who is very, very skilled in that thing.
Yeah.
Because there is a distinction between the two. And yeah, someone who knows how different people will learn. So like, for example, I teach Chinese, but within that, even though it's one thing, we're just trying to learn how to say things, how to communicate with people, but some people learn with flashcards, some people learn with writing and repetition, some people learn through just reading many, many things, some people learn through hearing other people and then they just get it. Some people need very distinct grammatical structures, and some people just can follow along in the conversation and pick up as they go. So with that, you're going to have a diverse group of students. But the students in a Kung Fu school, any martial arts school, are going to be another very telling sign of what you would become if you were that student. So that's another thing to look for, is what are the students like? And is it like a Cobra Kai kind of thing, or is it something where you respect the students and it's like a supportive group? Because the connection between your martial arts brothers and sisters is incredibly big, and it can be a very, very strong connection. But more importantly, the connection with your shifu, with your teacher in the martial arts, it's like imprinting with animals. It's like this kind of unbreakable bond. And if that person were to disappoint you with like a great flaw in their character, then it can really break someone.
They can shake your foundation of just.
It can make you leave martial arts entirely. I've seen it happen to many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Spencer hinted at a great one too. It can be very telling to see the relationships between other students in the school. Some people do learn. I think about Frank, who you guys may know from other videos on my channel. He is very militaristic. You know, he's in the Marine Corps. He's an officer. He takes quite well to that, as do some personality types. But at the end of the day, other people are completely opposite, and they won't even be capable of learning unless they won't feel comfortable in front of the teacher, unless they develop that trust. So I think it's very important to distinguish what kind of personality you are, and, you know, is that going to work with this teacher? Do they inspire you? But at the same time, don't be afraid to challenge yourself and step out your comfort zone a little bit. Don't be adverse to going to those couple of courses, going to maybe that free lesson, that trial course, and seeing, you know, feeling the martial arts flow through you. As you guys know, we tend to look deeper into it, into the philosophy, into what sort of values the martial arts develop. And I think that's an integral part of schools too. And of any teacher, really. It's not just facts. Fact finding, say do this, do this, do this. I think there's a deeper level to it.
Yeah, you're gonna, I think it's a great idea to try like trial classes at different places, but it's something you'll know probably almost immediately whether it's for you or not. And I think it's very important for me to say that that doesn't mean that I'm talking about the physicality aspect of it, because you might go into a class for just the first time and it's incredibly difficult for you. That doesn't mean that it's not for you. Right. It just means that it's a big challenge, or it's something you haven't really done yet, or it's something that you're using muscles that you don't normally use. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, you go in, you get a feeling for this place, you feel like you can be yourself, you can express yourself, you feel like you can grow there endlessly. That it's not going to be that you hit a ceiling, or that you find that this really it conflicts with your values, because there's so much more depth in the martial arts world than in certain other disciplines, in that you're actually learning character. You're learning how to be a human in the world. And if you find that like a devotion to your teacher, and then that person leads you in a direction that is off the way, then it's a tragedy. But that's why it's very important to figure out whether it suits you. So just like Phil said, someone like Frank, he thrives in a world of pure discipline.
Yep.
But every single person, they're so incredibly different.
Absolutely. And I have one more point here I think is really important, and I've seen this with a lot of people, is maybe they've gone for a month or two, or maybe even a year or two, and they've just discovered maybe something about the teacher that they didn't know before, maybe something that they didn't agree with, and maybe a massive character flaw. You don't have this lifelong loyalty to someone if it turns out that they're not the person you thought they were. And don't be afraid to be honest with yourself and be honest with your beliefs and your passions, to say, I can no longer call this person my teacher, or, you know, maybe I never really did, but now I'm realizing that. Still hold on to your beliefs. And the one thing I can say, I talk about this, the whole message of my film, Seeking the Bridge, if you haven't seen it, is remember the reason you started the martial arts, okay? And don't let go of that. Don't be in class for the teacher. There has to be a cultivation of both sides. You know, if your students were in class because they feared you and they wanted to please you, that's no sort of relationship. So, like Spencer talks about with his classes, he will, you know, try to make it more entertaining, more engaging, depending on each group. They're very different. There's one group that's very funny and very upbeat. There's another group that's kind of rowdy. There's another group that's very studious. And he tailors each one, and you have to be cognizant as a teacher of your students.
If you find, like Phil said, that like after a certain amount of time of training with a certain person that you find that it's not for you, then I really implore anyone who's in that situation to not confuse the martial art with that particular person, because it can deteriorate from someone's possible lifelong experience of something incredibly beautiful. So what I mean is that there are, like, people are flawed, but the inherent discipline is only flawed in so as much as its limits to what it's capable of doing. But there's nothing that is wrong at a fundamental value level of the martial arts. Yeah. Because it's not just fighting. Of course, we've said in other videos, and it should be established at this point, but it's the cultivating of character, it's etiquette, it's self-discipline, it's respect for other people, it's compassion, it's patience. So, and it's also just the honing of yourself like a knife that is oiled constantly every day and sharpened to the point where your mind and body in an ideal world are connected completely, and you're completely mindful of everything around you. So please don't let, if you're in a situation where you find that it's not for you, that doesn't mean that the martial arts isn't for you.
You still hold on to those roots that you love so much, the passion that made you start in the first place. As I say in Seeking the Bridge, that first touch, that first feeling of joy, that first feeling of elation, and just imagining the endless possibilities that could come from exploring this sometimes ancient art that thousands upon hundreds of thousands of people have touched through the ages, and to take it and be able to do your part to, you know, not necessarily develop it, but just to touch it, to touch that line. And that's why I love doing the wooden dummy, the wooden man. I almost feel the spirit of Yip Man in there, of Bruce Lee, of all the people who have touched it over the years, and just this legacy of learning.
As Phil touched upon this, your passion must come from inside. If it comes from outside, if it's coming to please your shifu, like Phil said, then if you're in a situation where there's no more shifu there, like maybe he moves to another town, or maybe you decide that it's not for you, or you can't go to his class, then there's no more cultivation of that. It's like you can't depend on outside forces for your happiness. So it's important that you constantly are reminded by yourself of why you're doing this and why you love it and if you love it. Because if you're depending on your teacher's affirmation of you or others' affirmation of you to do something that you say that you love, then maybe it's not what you love. Maybe it's something that you love the idea of fitting into a certain archetype, of being a certain type of person, or of having a certain set of skills. But always remember, if this is something that's for you, then with everything, not just with the martial arts, to have it come from yourself, because only then will be sustaining long-term joy.
I agree. And yes, don't let that fire that is your passion be just a candle that can be whipped away and put out by, a teacher leaving, something so simple. Let it burn, let it be this deep fire that nothing can stop it. Thank you so much, guys. Let's go learn together. Let's keep it up. Let's follow our passions, and let's all have a great day. Thank you so much, and I'll see you around.
Take care.
Thanks, Spencer.
Yet, one game, rather, the idea of one game, has always stood out to me because of its dark and more realistic tones, evocative of Shakespearean character examination with betrayal and tragedy, an art style more brooding and modernly stylish with sleek designer suits and willingness to commit fully to black as the predominant color of the piece at large. This film is astonishing to behold.
All right. Okay.
Side.
Looking at you sideways.
All right.
Sideways.